I would say you can define the sanctions and you can impose them. The question is what happens next. There was a complete inability. And by the way, I'll hold myself out as a sanctions expert. I worked for the intelligence community for over a decade. I did a number of things, but one of the things I did was economic warfare, financial warfare, sanctions. I worked for a group. We have something in the United States called CFIUS, and you say CFIUS, and people will say, does it itch or burn? But it stands for the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. But it's a group that vets foreign investment, takeovers of U.S. companies, not from an economic or antitrust perspective, but from a national security perspective. And I was one of the experts on that. So it just happens to be something I know a lot about. And I lectured on this at the U.S. Army War College. And I said, look, it's easy to come up with a list of sanctions. The question is, can you think not just one move ahead, but 2 moves ahead, 3 moves ahead? What's the reaction function? How does it actually, what's the blowback? Does it end up hurting you more than it does the enemy, in this case, Russia? And the answer is often yes. And the reason is fairly straightforward, which is, we spent 30 years getting a densely interconnected, globalized economy. How on earth do you think you can blow up one part of it and not affect all the other parts? Of course it does. And there are many, many examples, but the most, just to recite some facts, not opinions, but facts. Russia's oil and natural gas revenues are at all-time highs. Any oil that Europe doesn't want for whatever reason, the Chinese and the Indians are happy to buy it, and they are buying it. They say, well, we're gonna call Lloyd's of London and tell them they're not allowed to insure Russian vessels. Well, it sounds effective. Gee, how are you going to ship the oil if you can't get insurance on the vessel? I guess they've never heard of captive insurance companies or what's called self-insurance. I mean, this goes back to the Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare in the 16th century, which is you get a group together, you got 20 vessels. You all take a slice of your revenue, you put it in a pool. You say, we hope for the best, but if one of those vessels is seized or sinks, then we pay for it out of the pool. That's called self-insurance. That's what people did before insurance companies were invented. So my point being, these things sound good. They have a feel-good aspect to them, but they're tried and true workarounds, or they don't work the way people expect. So Russia's oil and gas revenues are at an all-time high. They've got willing buyers in China and India and elsewhere. By the way, a very long list of countries are neutral on this. We all, US and EU and UK and Canada, Australia, Japan. Okay, that's a pretty powerful bloc. I get it. But look at the major economies that have stayed on the sidelines. So, India, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, et cetera. There's the BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization members in Central Asia, a lot of very, China. So a lot of very powerful economies are not playing along with this. The ruble is it's almost too strong. I mean, our friend Elvira Nabiullina, the head of the Central Bank of Russia, she may be looking to cut interest rates. In fact, she already has to some extent, to kind of weaken the ruble because it's too strong. It's not only stronger than it was before the war began. It was about 80 to 1. The war began. It had a little quick dip to 140, then came back to 80. But then it went to like 70 and 65. That's a very strong ruble relative to recent years. So again, that helps them get around the boycott because the ruble goes further if you're trying to buy imported goods. So and again, many other examples. So reserves are up, hard currency reserves are up, oil, gas sales are up, the ruble is stronger. And meanwhile, what's going on in the West? In the U.S., $5 a gallon for gasoline. I know that seems cheap to Europeans, but trust me, for Americans, that's unheard of. Well, it is, it's a record high. But it's
German trade balance is the big one, isn't it? That's extraordinary that they've managed to reverse one of the most famous export powerhouses in the world to reverse their trade balance. It's just
correct. We were a net exporter of oil. Now we're an importer at high prices. Although we are exporting, this is just kind of in the news the last couple of days. Everyone knew that we were drawing down our strategic petroleum reserve, the SPD, in theory to mitigate gas price increases in the United States. Well, not enough oil. Here's some oil. We'll take it out of the strategic reserve. Well, number one, the problem was never oil. It's refining capacity. You have to turn the oil into refined products, whether it's gasoline, diesel, or kerosene, which is jet fuel. And the bottleneck is at the refineries, not at the oil, number one. Number two, that strategic petroleum reserve is not, why don't we just pump some? Why are we taking our national security reserve and selling that? Why don't we just pump more oil, which we're entirely capable of doing? That gets into the Green New Scam and all that, the ideology and the politics of it.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Stan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Stan.